All righty, let's do this. How's it going, Andy?
Oh, well, I was fine until you came up with that badass background and didn't share it with me. What the hell?
Hey, man. I think you have one too. You can change it to whatever you want.
No, that's all. That's all I'm going to be doing now for the next hour.
Cool. Thanks for joining, everybody. Andy and I are always excited to do these Ask Us Anythings. They're a lot of fun. So for those of you who have never done this before, this is where Andy and I give a couple of updates, and then we jump straight into Q&A. So if you're joining from Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you can feel free to just post in the comments section. They all get fed into this cool software we have, so we see all of them in one place. And we will be happy to answer your questions. We're probably going to save most of them for the very end. Well, not the very end, because we don't have that many updates, but for when we start Q&A. And but you're welcome to start putting the questions in now. Anyway, Andy, you want to get us started?
Yeah, hey everybody. So I got a couple topics interesting to talk about today. One of them is, for folks that haven't heard, we have brought back a program that was one of my favorite things in the world called the Community-Driven Development Track. This is basically where we will open up, where we'll call for open submissions basically on our Facebook group. Lasts about 24 hours to make sure that we can encompass everybody from every time zone. And I basically pull an all-nighter where I'm in there with y'all, and we will discuss your favorite quality of life features. Now, this isn't, let's go add this new big module. This is just something small that would drastically improve your ability to do whatever it is that you want to be doing. We grab two of our favorites from that, and then we send them off to engineering, as so long as they confirm that they're within scope. It moves into the development phase, and then we release them. Could be a couple weeks, a month or two after the fact. We're going to run these continuously every 1 or 2 months. And then, yeah, it's just going to go on indefinitely. This is a program that we love. It's great because it lets us work directly with you on your favorite features. And I wanted to announce the 2 winners. We just ran our first one like a week ago, and we just picked winners. I will say Chris Baker, he had the one that was the absolute favorite by far, but unfortunately it got kicked for scope. So we're trying to figure out how we can do this, but it's basically the ability to add date and time entries to ticket comments at the time you're going to add the comment. So right now you can just say, hey, I was there for an hour, you put in 60 minutes. This would actually let you say, I was on site from this time to this time, even if you came back to the office to fill in that time after the fact. Ran into some hiccups with that one, so we're looking at how we can do that. So the 2 that did win, John Koslow wanted to add the contact name to internal ticket notifications. So when we had those coming in from the Syncro system, you knew who the customer was. But if the customer is large enough, the person who opened the ticket could really determine if you need to respond right away or not. So that was a great idea. In fact, we're adding that to several notifications where it wasn't included. So John, that was a great one. We'll be happy to add that one. That's being worked right now. And then Brad Otto, who actually, I think he won at least once or twice. I know Brad's got some Syncro mugs from winning the last time, but he wanted to attach a worksheet to a ticket as part of a ticket automation. So for folks that don't know, we have this really cool feature in Syncro called ticket worksheets. You can attach it to any ticket, and it's like a very customizable form that allows you to check things off, look at how much status of it is complete, add custom fields to it. It's basically a way of, if you're onboarding a new customer, as an example, all the things that you'd want your tech to do so you're not going to forget what it is in the process. And you can make that required before you resolve the ticket. This is basically saying, hey, this ticket met this criteria. I want to automatically add the worksheet to the ticket so the technician doesn't forget to do it themselves. Love, love, love that one. Everybody was behind that. So that's the next one that we're doing as well. So congratulations to John and Brad. We will announce, give everybody a couple days notice before we do the next one. And like I said, I think we're going to do it in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, something to that extent. I've got a feature release I want to show everybody. Oh, Ian, can you enable screen sharing?
Indeed, 1 second.
This came out last week, and for folks that don't know, I really want to show this one off because this is a super cool one that came from the community as well. 1 second here. All right. So what we did was we always had this one here. This is our asset save search filter. And you could say, hey, I want to see all the devices that haven't checked in for X days. We didn't have the inverse of it. And somebody was like, hey, I'd really like the inverse of it. So we did that. So now basically this would filter out any devices that haven't checked in for X amount of days, in this case, 30. What this effectively does is it says, show me a list of only endpoints that I determined to be active And the active can be based on how many ever days that you define here. The reason that's super cool is because then you can take it into Syncro's dynamic recurring billing system. And we have all these different things that we can dynamically count for, one of them being endpoints. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to bill you for endpoints. I'm going to bill you $150 for every endpoint. And then you can actually feed an asset save search into the recurring invoices. So I grab my one that says active workstations. And now this is going to use that saved search filter that I just created and only bill for active devices. So if you guys have customers that may have contractors that come in, or they may have devices that aren't in service at all times of the year, now you can fairly bill your client just for what's active within any given month. And you don't have to go looking for that. You don't have to count it manually. We're going to do that for you. So if this month all 10 endpoints are active, great, it bills for 10. Next month, if 2 of them fell off and they're no longer active, it's just going to bill for 8. That's one of the really cool things about Syncro's billing system, is that all of this stuff is billing automation, handling it automatically for you. Now, the last 2 things are 2 features that are going to be released today. These again came from the community. This one, I got to be honest, I don't know. This has been in the system longer than I have. I don't know what it does or why it's here. I just know we're getting rid of it because it didn't make a lot of sense. When you have an override for an item for a customer, you can go into a contract and you could say, okay, labor is going to be $100 for this customer instead of $125. Maybe they're a nonprofit or something like that. We would always add this text and basically prepend it and say discounted per contract. This is really confusing for customers. They just want to know they're paying labor. They don't need to know on every single one of these. So basically, when you add it now, it's just going to remove that text. And I know there's been a lot of talk about that recently, so that's going away. And it'll basically work. Well, live demo didn't work, but it's going to add it, and it's just going to say labor or whatever you're adding. It will no longer show that it's a discount per contract or anything like that. This one's a lot more interesting. This one is our missing patches by KB report. This has existed for a long time. Great report, shows how many endpoints are missing any given KB number. Now, I was disappointed to find out that MSPs don't have every one of these KB numbers memorized in terms of what they are. So we're like, cool, let's go ahead and add the title for them. So this is a great suggestion. This should have been here from day one. Super glad we got this added, because now you can see exactly what it is and how important it is before you go trying to look up every KB number. So both of these will be live later today, I guess, probably within the hour, and we'll throw up stuff in the community, letting everybody know that they're available now. So thanks to everybody who chimed in on those suggestions. Great stuff we got going here. I'm
surprised to know that you memorize all the KB numbers and what they're for.
Right, I just figured it was everybody, but it was
yeah.
Apparently.
All right, next up, I just want to highlight a couple of things in case you missed them. Number one, on our blog, we released this blog post, which is a bit of a summary of the things we did in Q1 of this year. So you can kind of, if you miss any of these things, you can go and check out this blog post. I will paste the link right now. But you can, you can go check this out and catch up on anything you might have missed. Everything from revamping scripting to UI UX stuff, which I'll jump into in a second. New support portal, VAT, QuickBooks and Zero improvements, a bunch of things. So these are some highlights that you can check out on the blog. The next thing I wanted to highlight is a post in the community forums. Again, I will paste the link. And this is specifically talking about the UI UX refresh. And walking through some of the changes we made and why. There's a bunch of interesting comments in here, and we've responded to those. So I think this is really cool to check out, just so you can see what's different, and we're keeping it updated as we add more things. So that's fun. You can see how many comments there are, and we've been interacting with folks and changing things based on feedback. One thing that I want to name here is that in the product itself, we've been having these little pop-ups that you can click to give us feedback on some of the UI UX enhancements. We read every single one of the feedback submissions. And so we've gotten a ton of feedback on the UI UX changes, and we really appreciated it if you gave us feedback. I want to just highlight that some of the feedback is very conflicting. So not everyone agrees on what they like or dislike. We'll see one that says, I love this change, and another one that says, I hate this change right after that. So my request is, if you're going to give feedback on the UI UX stuff or feedback in general on anything we do, please try to be very specific. What do you love about it? Or what do you want us to improve? And the more specific you can be, the better we can improve the features and add more things so that everybody loves it. Okay, that is my request. Next thing, release notes. So in May, we put out these release notes again in the community forums. I will put the link in the chat. So this again goes through some of the recent things we released, some of what's new. And you talked about this one, for example, but we added some things to search all the things, ability to see policies by created and updated in the table columns, and then some fixes that went out. So you can always check out the release notes to see what's happened recently. Okay, a couple other things that I would just want to go over. One, we're excited to announce that we're currently going through the process of getting SOC 2 compliance certification. We estimate the completion date will be in August as we're going through and getting that certification. If you're interested in learning more about that, you are welcome to reach out to sales at syncromsp.com. You can do that today and just ask if you are curious or have any questions about it. But we will, of course, have more information about the SOC 2 compliance once we complete that certification, again, with an estimated completion in August. So excited about that. That's always fun. Okay. A couple other things. I have some personal pet projects that I am working on, and I need some folks who want to test those things. One of those things is a full database exports integration to things like AWS Redshift and a SQL database, Postgres or MySQL, if you want to export all your Syncro data to a database, and then you can do whatever you want with it or just keep it as a backup. I'm working on a little pet project, proof of concept thing for that. If somebody wants to test that, please email me at ian@syncromsp.com. Also working on an Azure AD integration. So if anybody would like to test that, please let me know. Again, just email me, ian@syncromsp.com. Okay, last thing, and then we will jump to Q&A. I am looking to interview folks who have grown their MSP while on Syncro. We've done some of these interviews in the past. I will paste some of the links to some of those past interviews. I've done these on live Zoom webinars, just like this one, where we interview folks and other MSPs like you can join and ask questions. And the idea here is to interview folks who are a little bit farther ahead in their MSP journey, and then for the rest of the community to be able to learn from them. So if you feel like, hey, I have grown, I started at 3 people and now I have 10, and I'd like to share some of my wisdom, please email me and we'll get you scheduled. I'd love to interview you and send you some swag or something in return. So let me know. Okay. That's our list of updates. Let's jump to questions. I haven't looked at the questions yet.
Yeah, I'll take some ones from Zoom. Tom's asking what's happening with the Watchman integration. Tom, basically, when we bought Watchman, for folks that don't know, we acquired Watchman Monitoring, which is a Mac, basically a passive Mac monitoring agent. Doesn't take actions, but monitors a lot of stuff quite well. We were looking at ways that we could potentially integrate that into Syncro. So that's no longer the case. So as far as Watchman goes, that will remain a product that's standalone. You can purchase it as a standalone product today. That's not something that we have plans to integrate directly into Syncro. Same Tom is saying he's got a problem with scheduled reports. Tom, I would go through support. I'm assuming you have already, so I can take a look at that. I'm not seeing a lot of problems around that one specifically. So yeah, if you've got a ticket, just let me know if you're not hearing a follow-up on that or what the status is. But yeah, that would go through support. Richard is saying, I'd love to see some improvements to invoicing. My customers would like to see products and services grouped together either in a BOM format, he's talking bill of materials, or group format so that pass through it. Okay. So basically he wants service type stuff to be grouped and subtotaled on an invoice. And I assume folks would be interested in doing this on an estimate as well. And then bill of materials type stuff grouped and subtotaled separately on the invoice. I've seen this one, Richard, come up several times. There's no plans to do that now. I think ticketing is going to be taking the bulk of the focus going forward in terms of improvements. And I have a feeling that invoicing is going to be directly behind that. And this is absolutely something I'd love to see if we could tackle at that time. Because I totally understand what you're asking for. I totally get the benefit. That's a good suggestion.
Hey, Andy, just a thought on that just occurred to me. What if there was a visual version of this? Like I've always run into issues with not like logical issues with bundles, right?
Yeah.
On recurring invoices and calculating the quantities and that being complicated. But what if it was just a visual thing on the recurring invoice template where you could put things in a category? And so it's like a visual bundle, but from a calculation perspective, it's not, there's no difference.
That's a pretty cool idea. Yeah. We have to go. Now we have something to chat about after this, I think.
Yeah. I forget who submitted that question, but let me know if visually we just changed it so that you can put things in like buckets or categories or something, if that would solve it.
Yeah. So basically the idea would be it affects nothing in terms of what's being like accounted for in invoices or inventory, anything like that. But the customer would be able to see how you're trying to break it down. David's asking, in the ticket list, is it possible to list the name of the asset? This would be great in seeing patterns of tickets that are automatically generated by alerts. So for example, if we have 10 RAM alerts, we'd be able to see if they all pertain to the same machine. David, right now there's not. Can you let me know a little more specifically? Because I'm wondering, like, when you open those tickets from automated remediation, meaning when an alert flows into automated remediation and you create the ticket, are you flagging those with a specific priority or a way so you know that they're not like clogging up your core ticket list or your core priorities, that they fall behind that, like something you want to check on, but it doesn't have to get checked on this second? Let me know what your flow is there. I'm just curious how you're handling that.
And just to clarify, is David asking basically to add a table column just for asset name?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
we'd have to account for it if it had a bunch of assets on it though, since you can have more than one.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Gregor's asking, is there any possibility to connect to the client's computer when ask user is checked in the policy? Oh, okay. So yeah, there's a thing in Splashtop that we don't support today. We do support attended access, meaning if you want to do unattended, you could just set that up in the policy for Splashtop and just access the machine whenever you want for any reason. You can also set up attended access, which when you try to access it, it'll pop up a prompt on the end user's machine and say, hey, so-and-so is trying to connect to your machine. Is that cool? If they press yes, you can connect. There's a third scenario that Syncro doesn't support, and I'll raise this again because I think this is a great idea, where if you try to connect and you need permission and the end user isn't there, like at night, and no one answers it, after X amount of minutes or seconds or whatever the setting is, it'll still let you connect if that prompt isn't answered. So that's one that we're going to look at because I think that's a really good suggestion. I know it really screws people up when you basically need it on in the day when they're there and you need it off at night when they're not. But the alternative is, for right now at least, you can just change the policy to move to unattended if you had to at night and switch it back. But I get that's obviously not super clean.
I got one here.
Take Brendan's one there.
Yeah. So Brendan's asking if we're working on anything like AI. I mentioned pet projects before, and I definitely have a pet project with AI that I am personally working on when my 1-year-old son goes to sleep. And it's actually pretty cool right now, but it's too early to share with folks because I have a lot of work to do. But yes, I am working on that, and early indications are that it's pretty cool, but we'll see. I don't want to promise.
I know how excited Ian gets because he sends me random messages like, oh, you want to see some really cool stuff? And I'll hop in and he's showing it to me. It's pretty cool.
We'll see. This stuff is quite experimental. So
yeah, for sure. Oh, let's see. Zane is asking what's going on with the double email issue. Okay, Zane, I'm gonna give a little personal note here. This is an issue that stemmed from a rich text rollout that hasn't gone particularly well. There are issues that it introduced that have been basically are proving very difficult to resolve. We are still treating it with a very high priority. I understand we've been saying that for long enough now where it probably doesn't mean anything. So all I can say is we're still working on it. We are trying very hard to resolve it. And we're just doing our best. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm not trying to make an excuse, and I don't do those kinds of things. Is there anything you want to add there, Ian, outside of that?
Nope.
Okay, but we are working on it, I promise you. Yeah, so David's saying merge multiple tickets without clicking into the ticket. Check tickets in the ticket list and click merge. I think, David, you're asking about merging multiple tickets together beyond just two. The good news is this came up in our community-driven development track open submissions a week ago. Love this. It got kicked for scope, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to do it. So this is definitely one that's high on my list. It's high on the global list now. And again, it would basically unlock the ability to allow you to merge a whole bunch of tickets together. Use case would be, I have an office that doesn't follow the rules because they're supposed to flow tickets through a single entity. Their internet goes down, and now 15 people opened a ticket with me about the same thing, and I want to basically merge all of them together. So yes, love that idea. That's something that we are definitely looking at. Totally get the value there. Let's see. Douglas is asking something about bundles. Ad hoc or bundled inventory items only display the top of estimates and invoices. It'd be nice to move it around in the estimate or invoices as they don't combine for quantities. Yeah, bundles is more of a break fix thing. So I know we added some stuff there. We didn't go full blast. That's one I definitely like to get more feedback from folks. In fact, raise this one at the next community-driven development track open submissions, because I would love for other folks to chime in and let us know what they're looking for there as well. Because I do think there's improvements there. I just want to make sure if we improve stuff, it's benefiting everybody and not just a specific use case. But I do think there's some things that we could probably improve there for sure.
I had a question from Brendan. Can you please never associate yourself in any way with Kaseya? We have no plans to do so. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned that question.
It's all in good fun. Can we get an option to generate late charges? Actually, Ian, do we have an option for? I thought we had some option for.
Yeah, there's yes. Hold on. Let's move on to another one and I'll come back to that.
Derek's saying, hey, we would like to see simple navigation back to the asset and or client. For example, when I'm in an asset, when we click through to another page in the asset navigation bar, such as scripts or Windows patches, without needing to click the browser back button, a navigation button back to the root asset or the client would be good on each page. Derek, do me a favor. My email is andy@syncromsp.com. Can you grab a couple of screenshots and show me your flow? Because I think I understand what you're talking about, but I'm not positive there's not another way to do what you're asking. So send that to me and I'll go back and forth with you offline and I'll try to better understand what you're asking. I do think flows in the app in general, there's a lot of room for improvement. In fact, I know there's one I just saw, just little dumb things, like for instance, right now, if you want to work ticket automations, you have to go to the admin settings. Well, my mind's like, hey, go to the ticket tab and then do ticket automation. So we're starting to like add logical flows for things like that. So I think this probably falls right within that.
All right, I got some. Okay, first of all, I got a question here. What's this? How can I track the progress on rich text? So there is a link here which I will post, where you can find anytime we release. We're continually fixing all the things that are found with rich text. We've gone through almost all of them. At this point, you can find the current status of any known issues at that link. Let me also address the question about late charges. So let me share my screen really quick here. If you go into the admin section and you go to payment terms under invoices, you can create a new invoice term and it's just say like late fee is the name. And you can say, this is based on the due date of the invoice. So if it's more than 30 days late, you can add either a flat rate charge, or if you wanted to add like a 2% charge or something like that, you could do that and it'll automatically add a late fee. I assume that is what you were looking for, but let me know.
Douglas is asking about Splashtop patches. Sorry, my screen just screwed up here. Let me go back to that one. When do we anticipate receiving the patches from Splashtop organically, or is there an easy way to patch through scripts without taking a lot of time to prepare? So what Douglas is talking about is on the most recent version of Splashtop, they have some kind of issue with logging, and it's choking AV and it's consuming a lot of resources and screwing up some stuff. Splashtop, for all of their updates, because they're so big, they have like this 3-week window where they basically break down who's going to get updates when, and it's somewhere within that 3-week window. Douglas, if you go in our community script library, there is scripts there, and there's been a lot of talk in the communities recently about this as well, to force updates in your Splashtop agents so they will update the newest version. I think it's like 3.5.8.0 or something like that. And the affected version was like 0.6.0, something like that. And you can update them manually. So yeah, check out the community script library and then check out folks in the community. Jimmy specifically, he's all over this one, so he's been helping out folks. So if you see him, usually what he says on Splashtop goes. He knows a lot there.
Tom has a sharp eye and noticed that I have LastPass in my browser. I will tell you, I have mostly moved to Keeper. So whatever, Tom.
Lots of people chiming in on the multiple ticket merges. Yeah, so I hear you guys. I really want to see that too. I totally get the value of that guy. Let's see what else we got. Is there any progress on active idle status on endpoints? That's not something we're actively developing right now. What they're talking about is whether or not the user is physically at the machine or not, to know if it's kind of safe to log in. It's something we'd like to do at some point. It comes up every now and again. It's not really high up on the list, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't expect to see that one anytime soon. But it is something that'd be nice to have. I agree.
Go in here from Tom again. Do you know of a service or company that would help build out a website that fully integrates Syncro to take advantage of various features, including mailer campaigns? I do. There are a few, and I will paste the link to all of them. And all of them, I think, have basic integrations with Syncro. So I'll put those in the chat for you, Tom.
Vaughn is okay. I need to make sure I understand what you're saying here, Vaughn. You're talking on ticket custom workflows. Is there a way to apply one or more custom ticket workflows to the process used to create a ticket from a lead? If so, is there a way to create this based on the type of ticket, etc.? There's not. And Vaughn, honestly, this is another thing that I would really love to sit down with a whole bunch of MSPs and discuss, because between ticket type, which is effectively a group of custom fields, ticket workflow, which makes the ticket layout different, and then ticket worksheets, it really feels like to me we need what I would call a ticket type, but more like a ticket, an asset custom type, like where you have a printer and it just has all the custom fields applicable to a printer. I would love it if you just said this is a network ticket and you had all the layout and all the fields that you wanted, custom or otherwise, for that. That's where my mind keeps going, but I think that other people have differing opinions there. So at some point, Vaughn, I'm going to spin some up in the community and let's try to hash all this out, because I do agree that there's a little bit too much crossover between these different things, and I think it could be cleaned up in a meaningful way for everybody. But as of today, no. Okay, back on the late charges. Generate late charges on a separate invoice from the original. Will often be asked to resend one, and it will have incurred a late fee as a line item, so the invoice won't match the original. I don't know if that's a great accounting practice per se. Normally, you would want to attach it to that. I mean, if you wanted to put it on a new invoice, then there definitely is no way to do that. But you would just, I mean, you could have a product or however you map it to QBO or Xero, whatever you're using, for late fees, and then just calculate the late fee and add it. There won't be a way to automatically do that on a new invoice, that's for sure. Aaron's asking, is there any chance of getting a customer filter on the tickets page? I'd love to quickly look at tickets by customer, either opened or closed. There is a search on the page for customer right now that will do that. And then also, neat trick. Let me share my screen here, one second. If you're searching for somebody in the search box up top, we have all these little icons over here, which are actually do exactly what you want. So here, if I click this, I don't know which one it is. Sorry. This is going to be all the customer tickets. That'll be all their invoices. This is all their estimates. And we also have all their endpoints. This will be like a quick list to this. So if I click this, it's going to dump me right into a view with all of my tickets specific to that customer. So we do definitely have a quick way to get to that. That's there today. You
can also just type the customer's name in the search bar that's on the tickets page, and it'll also do that.
Yep. Aaron's asking, is there any chance we'll be able to click into fields on the exec summary report in the future, like click into the hours spent to see which tickets, or click into the count of programs on the software report to see devices included? Aaron, probably not. I think getting those into other elements of the platform, or potentially into the internal report builder maybe. But the exec summary is really designed to be that, a summary specific to your customer specifically. But I do think there's some things along those lines you're talking about that could be improved in reporting, particularly with the software inventory report, where you can't click in and see what endpoints have this software that you do want or don't want. So that's definitely something we're looking at as well. Aaron's asking, is there any chance of a ticket dashboard revamp? I'd love to see the subject or topic or a type of card instead of just the customer name. That one's not, okay, so I think you're talking about the ticket dashboard that you would basically throw up on a screen in your office for everybody to work critical stuff. That one is not necessarily something we're looking at right now, though there are other things that I know are being looked at for dashboards that you would use just on your own machine, not like a public one. So there is improvements coming, but not to the public one, if that's what you're talking about.
David's asking if search all the things can search inside ticket notes. So the team is and has looked at that. Just to name the complexity there are millions and millions of tickets in the system, and the database query to search through every single ticket body is actually quite intensive. So if we do have that, it might not be in search all the things. It might be slightly different. The issue is not that we don't want to do it, it's that it's actually quite a complicated search in terms of the performance. So we understand the use case for what you want to solve. I don't know if it'll be in the search all the things bar. That being said, I have a proof of concept for Power BI, a Power BI official template, which does have the ability to search through ticket body comments.
Yeah, Aaron's confirming that he's talking about the KPI dashboard. So yeah, then Aaron, that definitely is something that's being looked at. Dashboards all around, not just for tickets as well. Jimmy's saying, I brought this up a handful of times, but those customer quick icons need to be everywhere to improve the flow of various pages. So many keystrokes wasted typing something that's already on the screen, as Ian just mentioned. Yeah, I agree. And that's definitely something being looked at too. In fact, Jimmy, that I know you suggested that in our community-driven development track recently, and spoiler alert, that is in the top 10. So it's definitely something I would like to see as well. Just quicker, easier navigation between common records in the platform, 100%. Marcel's asking, is there a way to create a report that contains a search of all clients for a certain brand of mainboard? Example, Gigabytes have a new backdoor vulnerability in some of its firmware. That's a good question. I think we track that. Ian, if you want to pick up another one, I'm gonna look at this really quick.
Sure, we got a question from Aaron. He says, given what the documentation tab does and doesn't do, how would you use it if you were running an MSP still? Doesn't seem like it's supposed to be on par with Hoodoo or IT Glue, but I don't really understand what I'm missing. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's probably like 60-50% of what those do. And I think if you really want to get deep into documentation right now, I would use something like a Hoodoo and just integrate it with Syncro. If you just need basic kind of wiki stuff, then it's totally fine to use what's in Syncro. And at some point we may look at improving that. Doesn't seem like the majority of the requests are in that area of the product. So we haven't been focusing a ton on that. So I don't think you're missing anything. I think it's just hasn't been a huge focus based on what folks are asking for.
Okay, so to go back, Marcel, to your question, this is an asset safe search. Not a lot of people know this, and honestly, this does not look awesome. So we really need to retool this to make it a little more logical in here. But if you go down to the bottom, you'd say, okay, my asset type is a Syncro device. That's any of your endpoints with the Syncro agent installed. Then you can add property conditions, and this is like custom fields and a bunch of other stuff. There's going to be one for motherboard manufacturer, and you can probably do, I mean, you'd have to test this, but I think you could probably do something like this and then search for that. And I believe this will work. So try that. We do have this functionality today, so that should work for you. Vaughn's asking, on the ticket screen page, can the text search box be fuzzy enabled? So if we start typing a customer and Syncro gives us an option, like the search all the things bar. Currently, if you want to filter by customer, like the earlier question, you have to know the exact customer name. Yeah, that's a really good point too. Look, and one of the things that we're really trying to improve right now, and you're seeing some of the UI elements change as we move forward, is certain search boxes or certain controls in certain areas don't behave like other controls. That definitely needs to get cleaned up. That is getting cleaned up. So yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. We probably have to break out where you're not having like a global search box in the ticket tab for everything, and you'd have one for customers, so we can do that specifically. But yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think we need to do that as well.
Question here from Martin: was the Hoodoo integration done by you guys or Hoodoo? It was done by Hoodoo.
Somebody on LinkedIn saying, if I deploy Syncro on an endpoint, is there auto discovery for other endpoints on the network? There's not. We did play around with that a while back, and the auto discovery isn't difficult, but the actual deploying, like automatically installing the agent, became impossible because the default fireworks settings on Windows 11 machines don't allow it to be deployed over the network. And you basically need admin credentials and a bunch of stuff like that. So if you already have that, chances are you're just installing it over GPO or something like that. So it's not that's not something that we're looking into at this time. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, a bunch of stuff about Kaseya sucking. So yeah, I agree.
Is there a way to refresh the screenshot when on the endpoint page? It automatically updates, and I feel like it's every minute.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I mean, it automatically updates once a minute.
Yeah, I mean, that one's purposely low resolution because it's just designed to let you know if somebody's actively doing something, not really show you what's on the screen. If you want to get on and not necessarily have the customer know, we obviously need a specific use case for that. But if you go into the backgrounding tools, there's one that says remote desktop. This is our backup remote access product, works over the web. You can basically just click that and see what's on the screen at the time, and it would be a higher resolution live image of what's going on. So that's an alternative too, if you want.
Question from Aaron: what area of Syncro do you think most MSPs are underutilizing? Easy: invoicing. The recurring invoicing stuff we see underutilized a lot. I think people don't realize how you can automatically update line item counts and things like that. Andy showed an example earlier today of pulling through an asset safe search, for example. You could bill automatically based through that on what's installed on the machine, etc. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. So I would definitely say the recurring invoice automatic counting. Andy, you got any others?
Yeah, I would totally second that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can bill for just because of the way it works. Like, a lot of people are like, hey, I have SentinelOne, you don't have an integration, so I can't bill dynamically. That's not true. Because you can bill against the saved asset search, you can easily say, hey, show me all the endpoints that have SentinelOne installed, and then count them, and then just bill your $10 a month or whatever it is per endpoint for SentinelOne. There's really like no limit to what you could do. I think the other thing I'd probably say is automated remediation, and that's primarily because Syncro does that differently than every other MSP platform on the market. Everybody wants to handle monitoring and the remediation of that monitor in a policy at the same time. And that kind of sucks because it doesn't work at scale. If you've got even just 100 customers and you need different policies for all of them, and you decide that you want to start remediating a specific thing that you saw, which happens a lot when Microsoft bombs a patch, or just like somebody was asking earlier, hey, Gigabyte has this new vulnerability. Well, now you have to go change 100 policies and remediate them differently. We take the remediation component out. So a monitor will generate an alert. Automated remediation is this completely separate component. Will monitor your alerts and only take action when you want to. So it's super easy to spin up a new remediation because you don't have to screw with the policies whatsoever. And that's absolutely underutilized, because I can always tell when someone's using it, because I actually get excited myself when they're telling me about all the cool stuff they're doing in Syncro. And it's because they've learned to use the power of automated remediation. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Got a question here from David. Would it be possible to have ticket automations update more frequently? I believe it is currently 60 minutes. Also, it would be great to have the automations fire whenever a ticket hits a particular status. Yes, we are working on that.
Vaughn's asking, suggestion to have Splashtop deploy on client computers without all the desktop shortcuts. I don't think, if you deploy our version of it, Splashtop RMM, it shouldn't be deploying any shortcuts. Those should be getting removed. If they're not, definitely run into our support team. If you're talking about like you brought your own Splashtop business, we just deploy that installer. So whatever's defined in the installer would happen. So you would, if you're scripting that deploy as an example, you just want to add to remove those as part of that. But if you're talking about ours, definitely open a ticket with support if you're seeing that. That shouldn't be happening. Zane's saying something I ran into recently is that ticket automations can't access scripts. Yeah, Zane, I'm kind of curious. It sounds like you might have been coming from Pulseway or Kaseya, because I know that BMS is kind of famous for being able to run scripts through ticket automation. So you can run scripts through automated remediation, but you can't as a ticket automation. I actually think that'd be pretty cool. It's a little bit risky because obviously some things could trip automations in an interesting way if you're not ready for them. But I think that's a great idea. So if you want to jump into the next community-driven development track, our open submissions, and add that, because I actually think that's a pretty cool idea. Ian, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, usually you go the other way. You'd have an automated remediation, run a script, and then create a ticket. But But I could see if you had a ticket automatically created, for example, from like an email from a backup solution, maybe, and it's like failed backup, and that comes in as a ticket. It doesn't come in as an RMM alert because it was an email. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I remember, like, as an example, we had like an Exchange server that we were looking to replace. It was when everything was impossible to get after the typhoons or whatever over in the East. And so we had like a script that somebody could trigger on their end, and it would have been to kind of keep this thing going, the service that kept failing. In the meantime, would be super cool for them to just email in and it automatically does it for them, and it kind of like keeps tracking that for them or trapping. I think that'd be a cool idea.
Yeah. Douglas says, please keep the Ask Us Anything to this time frame. It's very helpful for me to join. I hate to break it to you, Douglas, but no matter what time frame we pick, someone's mad at us. It's just how it is. But let's get to Douglas's other question. How about multi-monitor support for Splashtop for RMM? We are working on that. It's actively happening.
Okay, Zane's saying you have to have an asset online in order to do it now. Well, if you're talking about scripts, you'd have to have an active asset online to run the script, but that's not necessarily true, Zane. So the way our scripting works is when you run a script against an endpoint. So I have long guys outside, they're super loud.
Can't hear anything.
Okay, great. It will go into a queue. And so basically, if the asset's offline, it will go into a queue. And when the asset comes back online, it will go ahead and run. You actually have the option to skip that too if you want it. So if you don't want that behavior, when you run the script, you have a toggle there to skip offline assets. So you can absolutely run scripts against offline assets if you wanted to.
Got a question here from Martin. Any tips on how to bill Office 365 licenses without PAX8 integration? So that's why we're working on an Azure AD sync integration. So that's one of my pet projects. Because if you were to use that, it would pull in license information from Azure AD, and then you'd be able to bill against it in Syncro. So if you're interested in testing that, I'll have that probably in a testable format soon, like in the next 3 weeks-ish. So shoot me an email.
Marcel is saying, I'd love to see some sort of tutorial about linking Syncro and QuickBooks Online. Perhaps you have a consultant I could call on. Marcel, email me directly and I'll see what we can do there. We may have something, I'll have to look. So just email me, Andy@syncromsp.com. Got a question coming from LinkedIn. Back in the old days, I was able to get someone two remote sessions within Syncro. Is this still possible? I need some help within policies. If you're saying 2 remote access sessions at the same time,
I think he's saying like he wants help. He wants a one-to-one session with us. He wants like an onboarding session.
oh, I see what you're saying. Got it. Yeah, email me and we could talk about that in more detail. Yeah. Is there any future plans for improving the mobile app? So Brendan, here's the deal with the mobile app. The mobile app now is okay. The mobile app could be a hell of a lot better, but our priority is on the PSA currently. So the mobile app is not currently a high priority. That's not to say we're not looking to improve it. We want to improve it down the road. I've got a lot of ideas there. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas too. So it is something that we're going to revisit at some point, but I don't want to give everybody false hope that it's something that's actively being worked right now. It's not. Our focus is definitely on the PSA right now.
We are fully aware that it needs a lot of work. It's just about resources and prioritizing. And as Andy said, we're working on the PSA stuff. So we will get to it, but not right now.
Yeah. Jimmy's asking, why is the asset contact not indexed in the search all the things? I had to create a script to make the assigned contact and writes it to a custom field in order to search it. Jimmy, that's a dumb thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go talk to folks about that because that is kind of weird. It would also be nice, and I know people have asked this, if you were in a customer looking at a specific contact, it'd also be nice if it listed their endpoints for that contact as well. So yeah, that's a really good call out, Jimmy. I agree. Rick is asking, under ticketing, under add view charges, ticket line items, can we have a percent markup field that will calculate the cost of the percent and come up with the price? And if you fill in the cost and the price, calculate the percent. We could, Rick, but can I ask you what the reason for that is? Because normally that's a section for a technician to add stuff that they physically added to the ticket. Like, hey, I went on site, I had to replace this router, or this Wi-Fi access point or whatever. And normally you don't want them changing those prices on their own, but you do have those fields obviously in the product when you're setting the cost of the product. So let me know specifically what the use case is. Like, why would you want to be changing that or have your text specifically changing that on the ticket directly? I'm curious what you're thinking. Kyle is asking the ability, okay, so he wants the ability to allow Screen Connect as a default app when clicking in the asset. Okay, so right now in the asset records, we have a remote access button. When you click it, it uses our Splashtop integration by default. There's a drop-down that will include TeamViewer, Splashtop for Business, and Screen Connect as third-party apps. So Kyle basically is saying, hey, can you just make it when I click that, it uses this. Kyle, I actually love this idea. I don't think it's super hard for us to do. So raise that in our next open submissions for quality of life stuff, because I think that's a great idea. And I get it. It's one extra click. It's one extra click you shouldn't have to make. So I like that idea quite a bit. Okay, Rick is saying that's exactly why we don't stock parts, so we do not have an inventory. We use one miscellaneous part number and we fill in the details and price on the fly. Okay, Rick, I got to admit, that's as you grow, I don't know if that's going to be scalable, and it really allows for some accidental fat fingering of prices and stuff like that. So I don't know if we'd be adding it based on that use case. But like I said, if you have others, let me know. And if other people disagree there, chime in. I'd like to hear what you think as well. But I would definitely look at, tracking inventory to some degree, because again, I'm not sure it's the best idea to have like technicians manually entering in prices on their own, or having to constantly go to you to have you tell them what the price is. I think that's probably just going to blow a lot of time for you.
Comment from Richard about the Azure integration, bringing in customer contacts. That's the idea. So yes. And then a comment from Aaron, is there a way to use Zapier or something else like the API to get the Syncro system to send out a text message when a ticket is updated? Interesting. The ticket comment type I'd have to think about that. Let me think about that for 1 second.
David's asking, currently, he has tickets going into a knock status. The knock status is segregated from the rest of the tickets. I go into the knock status and move the necessary ones into the service board. Yeah, so look, ticket boards, service boards, whatever you call them, that's not something we have now. It's something I desperately want. I've wanted to see for a long time now. I know they're making some basic updates to ticketing to try and look at some of that stuff. I understand what you're going for. I don't think those are going to solve it. But just know that it is something that we're working on quite diligently, and that's probably #1 on the list of things that we really need to deliver next on the PSA front. I totally get it. It's extremely difficult to run business, especially when you're integrating with a knock desk without having proper ticket boards or service boards. Completely agree.
All right. So Aaron's question about getting it to send a text message. You want to get texted when a ticket is updated, or you want to text the user or the client when a ticket is updated? Just, can you clarify for me?
Well, he's writing that in. Aaron's saying if you start in a customer, I think he's talking about the customer record.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I want the customer to get an update. Okay, yes. So when in the API, you can post a ticket comment here. And you can basically choose if you want them to get an SMS. So you can totally do that if you post the comment via the API. The other thing is we have a Twilio integration, and that would definitely let you do that. Twilio has this crazy thing called Twilio Studio, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, and for folks that are adept in Twilio, I messed around with that for some other stuff. I've seen people build entire like Twilio bots where you text in, it's like, hey, I see you have 4 tickets. What ticket would you like to see? I'd like to see this one. Okay, you want to add a comment. It's very cool. So that Twilio integration can do some pretty wicked stuff if you're looking to really get heavy into SMS. So Aaron was saying, yeah, if I'm on a customer record, scroll down to the assets section, click view all, and it works as I expect. But if you then search in the box at the top of the asset list, it's going to search across all customers. Is that a known issue or is it a bug? It's neither. It's kind of intended behavior. So Syncro searching is somewhat rudimentary in that you can search and get one group of results, and then you cannot search within that group of results. So you basically need to do one originating search with all of the filters that you want in there. So yeah, if you need, honestly, the best way to do it right now is just like Control F if you're on Windows, like a find mechanic in the browser, if you need to find something in a long list without having to search again. But overall, I think that's a good idea. Like it'd be great if you could search within existing results, like there was a toggle or a drop down or something, or you could just search, fresh again. I like that idea.
Got a comment from Richard. When I Splashtop into a server running in Google Cloud, the screen is blank or black. I feel like that's probably, you probably should submit a ticket to Splashtop, but I highly doubt that has anything to do with Syncro itself.
He's saying the screen is black when he's connecting?
Yeah, it's blank. Basically.
Yeah, so it's almost always the driver on the machine you're connecting to. Check the video driver. A lot of times people have like the hardware acceleration disabled or something like that. If you update the drivers, it's almost always going to resolve that issue, especially if you're only seeing it on like one specific endpoint out of a bunch.
Yeah, you could try remoting in with Syncro Live and see if that works. But yeah, I don't think it's a Syncro specific issue.
Yeah. Zach's saying, hey, we're new to Syncro. I don't see a way to set nested ticket issue types. Would love to have the nested types. Yeah, so what Zach's talking about is having like a core parent type and then subtypes underneath that. I've seen that used a ton, and I agree, Zach, we don't have that now. That'd be a great update to tickets to have basically subtypes. Same thing with priorities, having subtype priorities and how that's going to flow into service boards and things like that. I think that's something we'll definitely be looking at in the future, though. Brendan is asking, would it be possible to have create a new ticket open in a pop-up instead of navigating away to the create a ticket page? I mean, you can open it in a new tab. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you just, like if it's on Windows or I think Mac will do it too, if you middle click any link, it'll open in a new tab, so you're not going to lose your place. It's kind of funny. We looked at this before and we have like 50-50 split. Half the people are like, I want everything to open in the same window. And everybody else is like, I want everything to open in a new tab. So the most logical way to do it is to have everything open in the same window and allow you to middle click to pop it in a new tab. So that's what I'd recommend for that one.
Jimmy has a comment for Richard. He says the video driver is disabled on headless. That may be the cause for Splashtop black screen, may need to load the virtual display driver. And he provided a link. So I'm just going to paste the link into the Zoom chat. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that.
I'm 99% sure Jimmy secretly works for a Splashtop somehow. I don't understand it, but that's all I know. When we use the Splashtop integration, the mouse pointer is offset up and to the left. That's typically, David, that's typically going to be another driver issue on that machine. Or is this happening on, if it's every single one, every single machine you're connecting to, it's probably the video driver on your machine. I can't think of any other reason that would happen, but ask Jimmy because we have a Splashtop employee here. So Jimmy, what do you think about that one? David's asking, when an invoice is emailed, we sometimes see an email invoice contact as well, or something checkbox. I cannot figure out what it does. When I send out invoices, I always want to send it to the invoice contact. Okay, so here's the way this works. I can share this really quick. So everybody knows when you are on a customer record, you can set contact information. So this can either be the main customer contact, or if you had individual contacts, so you could also assign this there. You determine whether you're going to receive billing emails, marketing, and reporting emails. And the idea is that you don't want to have to go send a report and then go look up what 5 people in this company at 20 need to get this report. Same thing for emails. So when you create an invoice and you're going to send it out, when you go to email it, oh, that's an ad hoc, I'm sorry. Where is, you know what, again, live demo, sorry, but there's a way you would email from this section, and when you do, it's going to pop up a modal, and it's going to ask you if you want to send it to somebody else. If you don't include anybody extra on here, it's only going to go to the people that you have physically designated as the contact. That window is more for like if you decide this needs to go to someone else, or you've got like an accountant who's asking you for auditing information on behalf of the MSP, and you need to send him stuff too, but you don't want him as a contact in the customer. That's the reason it works that way. Oh yeah, so did you, can you grab this link from Jimmy and add it to the chat?
Yes.
David, Jimmy's got a link for that one too.
Jimmy, what a helpful guy.
All right, what else do we got? Somebody's saying, hey, just as a side note, we're using Syncro Live's remote access and it's pretty bulletproof for us. Yeah, a lot of folks don't know, but we have that remote desktop in Syncro Live as a backup, and it works pretty good. Doesn't work as good as Splashtop, but again, if you're having some kind of issue, it's super easy. And especially if you don't want to install anything on a particular endpoint you're on, it just works over the web, which is super nice.
Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I think we're probably good, right?
Yeah, I think we knocked off everything. So yeah, again, if we missed your question, save it for next time. If small quality of life features, please engage with me specifically when we throw up that next open submissions. We'll let everybody know ahead of time. That was great time all around. I really like engaging with y'all, so we're looking forward to see what everybody comes up with next.
Thanks for joining, everybody. These are always fun.
Cheers.
Bye.